All right, guys. Hey, I just appreciate you chiming in right now. If you're listening and not seeing this video, you don't get to see this wonderful fire and the crackling. Maybe we get to hear the crackling, but we get to celebrate episode 500 with just a little special way of doing it. And if you can't see the video right now, I'm surrounded by some incredible people, people that I get the pleasure of now calling friends. It's funny how oftentimes clients can turn into friends faster than friends or family for that matter, right? Get closer. But I'm surrounded by, gosh, how many? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 others. We're in Cabo, Mexico, Los Boriles to be specific. And we just got done with an incredible Wealth Builder weekend. All of these incredible humans have wonderful businesses all across the country. And we've been here talking business and specifically family planning and legacy. And we wanted to share some of those things with you, the listener here today. And not just me or Jake giving good stuff to you, but some of the folks that we are closest to and want to be able to share some of their wisdom as well. And so thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Why, thank you.
For the listener, we've got a couple of mics. We'll be passing them around. So if you hear some dead spots, maybe we'll try to edit those out. But hang tight with us. My first question is going to be for Gary Curley, who's sitting here. And if you've been a Driven to Win or a Gathering the Kings podcast fan, Gary Curley was my very first guest, episode number 1, back in February of 2022. Wow. And it feels like that was a long time ago, didn't it, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, so much growth has happened since then, and I mean, literally, it seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, yeah. In one one perspective, it's like that wasn't. Gosh, that was just a couple years ago, you know. But like you said, as much growth as we've seen. But what would you say? Just kind of reverse engineering back, basically 3 years, and knowing what you know now. What would you tell Gary from 2022?
Wow. So telling myself back from the beginning, I would tell myself to go faster, make decisions quicker, fell faster, fell forward, and just frickin' go for it.
What do you think in the last 3 years? What's been something that you looking back on now? Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but something that you delayed on or that you went too slow on that you could have gone faster
on? Surrounding myself with good people. So before I kind of started this journey, I was the most successful room in every room I walked in. I was the most successful person. And I was actually, when I met you in this podcast, I was actually on the journey to find a new circle. And it just kind of happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and so whispering to that, Gary, like, hey, there's good people out there. It's okay to trust and okay to grow.
Yeah, and I mean, just celebrating each other and knowing like you don't have to have the ego. You could set the ego down and just kind of network and mastermind with each other and celebrate with each other and lift each other up. And I mean, truly, that's what all this is about.
Yeah. If you'll pass the mic to Matt. Matt Kilhorn was guest number 2. Kind of funny how that worked. But what, Matt, just that idea of celebrating that Gary was just talking about, how has been able to celebrate, whether it be with people here in the GTK community or your family, but how has celebrating with others in a kind of a positive, moving forward way impacted you the last couple of years?
That's an interesting question. Just to buy myself a little time, but before I answer that, I want to celebrate the fact that this is show 500 for you.
Whoop, whoop.
And that's just a lot of commitment and intention on your effort. And that's seen and that's super appreciated. For me, the realm of celebration is an area of growth that I've experienced over the last few years. I probably have hit achievements and kept right on going without even stopping to breathe.
Yeah.
And yet that celebration is where true bonds happen. I find it as a significant part of my own leadership these days to be able to celebrate even tiny wins with my team. And so the fact that we have this group of folks and players, winners, achievers, and we can add that pause be like, yeah, we're show 500. We're 3 years into this realm. We're hitting this metric. That's pretty significant because it's not just about this grind. And I think that might be, grind hustle or, grind culture is around constantly going, maybe never being good enough. And I think the maturation, the leadership, the growth opportunity is to recognize the real wins, recognize that there is enough in myself and in others. And it's really important to curate those bonds,
Yeah.
celebrating in that way.
Yeah, you talked earlier today. We were, kind of going through what we call a boardroom here in Mexico, and our Wealth Builder members like Matt that are here with me. We get together every quarter in person, and we go deep on each other's businesses, lives. But one of the things that we got to celebrate with you earlier today, as you did your kind of boardroom update, was that just this level that you and Annie, your wife, have been able to go to just in the last. I mean, you've always been working on this, but in the last 90 days or so, you guys have made some major shifts in your life. Talk about some of those wins, as you're saying, because celebrating those was huge for us earlier today. But this has really been kind of a season of wins
Yeah.
for you. It maybe hasn't felt like that all the time, but
Yeah.
talk about that.
That's really true. That bond that Annie and I have these days is a huge, massive win. I mean, we turned a corner on 18 years of marriage, and there's some really tough years in there. If I had the opportunity to go back to Matt from 3 years ago, I would tell him to focus on his leadership and lead more. And with my wife and I, it's a little bit traditional realm and understanding how we play well together and hold each other accountable, support each other, but from our own roles. And so, the bond that we have today is just amazing. It's beautiful. And I feel so supported, so loved, and I reflect that right back to her. And the synergy that we have just allows us to be super effective in parenting, super effective in business, super effective in just growing where we want to grow. Massive win.
Yeah, that's awesome. Landon Malave sitting next to you. You guys have become pretty close the last couple of years, and you guys have this jiving personality, or competition almost between the two of you, and spurring each other on to greatness. I'm going to have you pass the mic to him in a second, but speak on your friendship / watching Landon from your perspective grow, and I'll ask him a similar question here in a minute.
I love Landon like a brother, like a little brother that I love to beat. And watching his growth is super special, and I've gotten to visit you at your home. I have spent times with your wife and children, and you have a lot to be proud of, like an insane amount of things you can be proud of. And I think like anybody that I've seen in this circle that's been here for a minute, like there is just real opportunity to get agitated, to grow, to reach, to stretch. I'm super excited to see where you're going to go over the next 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, because you keep transforming. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Landon, just speak from a perspective, of, a couple years ago, you had an event in your life where, you lost your brother, and in some ways you've picked up several brothers and sisters here with GTK, but, the Landon today that was able to work through that, isn't the Landon from before. And the Landon from before, I don't know where he'd be today working through some of those things without just the effort that you put in personally, of course the relationships that you built around this fire. But just talk about that from like a growth perspective. Do you see that in yourself? Where do you think that you'd be? What do you think your brother would say to you right now if he were here sitting next to the fire with us?
You're trying to make me cry, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, that's a great question, man, and it's something that I was really trying to find something. You know, I didn't know what that was. I found you guys, thank God, before that happened, losing my brother, my older brother Kyle, who was 2 years older than me. Because finding all of you guys allowed me to have, like you said, kind of that other brothers. Matt is definitely a brother. A lot of these people here are my brothers. You, it changed who I am. You know, I look at life differently. I look at perspective differently, my business differently, and having you guys there to encourage me, help me, watch me grow. You know, like Matt said, he's been at my family's house and had dinner. You've came by a couple times, went and visited a lot of you guys here. I don't think it would have been possible. One, I wasn't ready for it. I mean, 5 years ago, I wasn't looking for that growth. I started looking, but then found a lot more than what I anticipated. And I'll be forever grateful for that, because it's really has transformed my life. I have went to a whole nother level. I've changed into a different person, much stronger, much more willing to take things head on, kind of dove deep into myself and kind of found who I am as a person, much better, because I wasn't, again, looking for that. And so all you guys, you know, helped me find that person and keep pushing me to be better every single day. And it's just been an amazing journey. I don't know if I answered your question there, but
No,
that
it's
was
good.
a deep that was a deep one.
Yeah, no, you did a good job. What would you say, you know, and not as a GTK promotion, in fact, I'm saying that so that you don't, but the person listening right now is in a spot where they're just, you know, struggling, alone possibly, maybe even just entrepreneur isolation, feeling like there's nobody around them. What would you share with that person? That's, you know, some of the things that you've been able to grab in this personal growth that you can share with them.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Before I really went on the growth journey, I was super alone. I mean, I didn't have hardly any friends that were entrepreneurs. I didn't have anybody in my circle that could relate to the problems I was having in business, the guilt that I had from missing out on my children's stuff, to just a plethora of things that every one of you guys in this circle know, feel, have experienced. And so knowing that now, you know, I wish I would have found some people sooner. So I would encourage people to get vulnerable, allow yourself to reach out, look for others. You know, I think a lot of people want to do it themselves and be tough and, you know, I can do it alone. I thought it forever, and beat my head up against the wall for 7+ years probably. And if I would have been able to find something like this sooner, I feel like could have been maybe in a little bit higher spot. But I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I met you guys just at the right time in my life. But there's not words that can explain how it feels to have this caliber of people around you constantly pushing. You know, we text every day, asking about goals, things that have happened in our lives, marriage, our kids. And so that's just not something that you find in regular circles. It's got to be people that think like you, doing the similar stuff as you. And so it's been super, super special for me to find people that I found my circle. I found my people. And I love all you guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. Pass the mic over here to Nathan. Nathan, I remember, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, it may have been when we were in Georgia, or maybe Utah, I can't remember, actually, maybe it was Utah, and you were telling me a story about you and Lori, your wife, and how there was like I don't know if it was a financial decision or something that had happened, and Lori, you felt like for the first time was like, okay, Like, I trust you. And you were just like, oh my gosh. It felt amazing to know that, like, I've built a history of good decisions with her. Talk about maybe that journey of good decisions. And, you know, I know all of them were good decisions, but talk about that for a second.
As entrepreneurs, a lot of us have a lot of irons in the fire and go in different directions. Or if me personally, I see the next shiny thing and head straight for it. And money and decisions were always kind of kept close to me. I just kind of did it. And my wife, Lori, was always supportive, but always kind of there. And so, yes, bringing that to her and it's a fairly big decision we had to make, or I had to make, and I brought it full fold to her, and for her to just say, like, yeah, you got this, right? I mean, I trust you, and she didn't understand all of it, but she trusted it enough, and a lot of that came from guidance from this people in this circle, because at the time I'm like, I don't know what to do here, which direction are we going to go, and whatnot. So yes, it was very eye-opening when she just said, I trust you, go.
Yeah. And the backdrop there is that, you know, she's super analytical, counts everything, probably has control / maybe even trust, you know, issues, like my beautiful queen that likes to have everything in order, you know. And
Yes.
so it hasn't always been like that, is my point.
No, a lot of it before was a scarcity mindset, and then also she's very, very detail orientated, and she wants the plan. She wants, this is what we're going to do and stick to it, and we're not going to deviate. And I deviate. So, but yes, building up the track record of obviously stacking the wins, right?
Right.
And being able to have some teeth behind what I was saying was part of that. But yes, yeah, she's very analytical, wants the detail, wants the agenda, and know the direction we're going. And
Yeah.
not always in business you have that.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen you be resilient. You say deviate, but I see it as resilience. You know, and being able to pivot, and you've got multiple companies now, and you know, you've been through some really great years since I've known you, and some years that have been struggling or a struggle. You know, what would you give to the listener right now who might be, you know, at the 2024 was just the top of their game and they're feeling like, man, I'm unstoppable, or maybe 2024 was, it's just a lot of weight. And what would you give to both of those listeners?
I mean, if 2024 was your best year and that was the win, I would recommend humbling yourself to a certain level. Celebrate the win, as Matt was saying earlier. Cherish that win, but it's not over, right? The journey's not over just because you had a great year. Bad years can follow good years. If you've had a bad year or it was a tough one, you know, I can't say enough about what we've been talking here now today with the circle of people around you. I've had my own struggles this year, and to be able to, you know, reach out to people that have a similar mind or gone through this, or you know, you're not in it alone. Basically, whether it's a win or a loss, there's other people out there that can help you. When you do try to do it on your own, I would have probably spiraled out of control a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing. Peyton Squires, you know, you're in the tax strategy, wealth planning space, and personally have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I appreciate you, and I know plenty of others around the circle do as well. But you know, this weekend we spent quite a bit of time thinking about wealth, but perpetuating it, not just, you know, a tax strategy this year to save money or to hold on to wealth, but getting that wealth not just to our children, but through our children, grandchildren. What does that mean for someone like you who lives in this money space to be able to have now maybe a possible framework for your kids, your grandkids, maybe even beyond that?
Yeah. You know, a lot of the focus we did here this week and was on that real legacy planning, and that, as I shared, you know, maybe yesterday, was that's really personal to me, because my family generations back did have some success in the entrepreneurial world, and then it didn't make it through that second generation. You know, my generation, was back at square one, and maybe even I had some other, you may even say even more disadvantages. But I think I love the framework they provided, as in just the detail around that, because, you're talking about getting your wealth to the next generation. You're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations down the line. You're going to ask a whole lot different questions, right? And you're going to have a whole lot different plan, because those are two totally different things. So I love that idea of just trying to be the best steward, right? And the idea of trying to give our children and then our children's children in perpetuity just be able to stand on our shoulders, right? Stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Because we're all standing on top of all our ancestors.
Yeah.
And just to perpetuate that. And, in our little way, in our own families, we make the world a little better place.
Yeah. Similar story, but we both grew up single mom family, and pretty hard upbringing. The entrepreneur that's listening right now that hasn't been given anything,
Yeah.
they're literally at the bottom, rubbing 2 pennies together, but they have belief.
Yeah.
Talk about the moment when you first really believed in yourself and jumped, because you didn't have anything either.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I'm sitting here in the circle, and you guys talk about culture index. I'm probably by far the lowest A in the circle, right? So, like, confidence in myself, autonomy. My social ability makes me sound a whole lot more confident than I am, right? I can cover it up pretty well. I don't even remember what I was going with that, but confidence in myself, right? That's where it all starts, right? And in a lot of ways, that's what I was lacking for a long time, right? And these guys and everybody here in this circle, last time I gave my update, it really just became a whole lot clearer. It's like, Peyton, you're just not making decisions. You're not making decisions fast enough because you're not confident, right? And that was such that was freeing to me, because, being a little more high detail, a little lower A, I can tend to just not necessarily make a move, right? Even if I intellectually know the move's the right move. So you got that confidence, man, you got pretty much all you need, right? You got that confidence, humble, willing to learn. I mean, you can go figure out literally everything that you need to do whatever you want to do. But yeah, that confidence is key. That's really where it all begins.
One thing I appreciate about your story, which I think most of us around this fire can relate to, but also appreciate, is just that you jumped, as an entrepreneur to start your own thing, but it was in this pursuit of personal development. And it wasn't just, I'm just going to willy-nilly go for it, although I think that there's a place and a time to just jump without reservation. But I guess what I'm saying is that your approach has always been studied, and you've read the books and you listen to the podcast constantly. Of course, you've got your own podcast. Many of you guys around this circle do, but talk about the value of education, or just kind of filling up yourself first, especially from guys like us that maybe just didn't have that in the background.
Yeah, that's always something that's kind of come natural to me. I can always kind of consider myself somewhat like an intellectual or whatnot. And I guess I'm just, to some degree, just naturally curious, right? Like, I love learning things. I love detail. I can kill all you guys in trivia at any time.
I don't know. I think you didn't do that good last night.
I was doing pretty well. But it's just kind of the idea, like, everything's out there, especially in today's world. I mean, like, everything is out there for free to little cost on the internet. Like, everything known to man, right? You just got to search to find it, right? And you got to be willing to do that, willing to ask the questions, willing to be humble enough to actually think you don't know everything and to take in that new information, right? And so much of what we got to do, especially like my background, my childhood, you got to unlearn way more stuff than you probably need to learn, right? Because you've got all this subconscious junk that's blocking everything that you want. So it's really, my podcast, we talk a lot. I mean, every episode is just focused on self-awareness. right? Every person we have on there, and it just goes into, well, you just need to be more self-aware, right? And that to me is the ultimate superpower.
Yeah, appreciate that. George and Margarita Rivera. George, you and I met on Facebook probably a couple years ago now, and squirreliest guy I know, because supposed to be on the show, and then he ditches me. Actually, I don't know if that's the true story or not, but we never meet, and I don't know, maybe even a year and a half later, we finally connect, and something that maybe I think I had posted that you were just like, hey, like I really resonated with that, and you guys' story is obviously a rags to riches story, and when I heard the podcast I listened to about your guys' story, it was just super cool, and shared it with as many people as I could. And but 20 years in, started your business 20 years ago. You started your family 20 years ago. Like, it's been a journey. What would you share about this time collapsing? Because that's what I've seen in just the short time that I've known you, probably not quite a year now, like closer, but is that these 18 years, and then it's like the last 2 or 3, time's not moving faster, but you're moving faster. You're shifting gears at a faster rate than probably you ever have before. Talk about that. Why is that?
I think when you get older, you get a little wiser. And when you're young, you think you have all the time in the world. And sometimes you lose that perspective. This is gonna last forever. So when your kids are getting older, you do a lot of sacrificing. And when you hit the 40s, 45, and your kids go to college, and it's like, wow, we've been doing this for 20 years by ourselves. It's time to really step up our game and get into a good group. It's just go time right now for us, and there's no time to waste. We have a lot of potential, and
What's driving that I don't have time to waste? I mean, obviously, for the folks that are 20 years into their career, sending kids off to college, they might be slowing down and thinking, "Whew, I made it." But I hear you talking about ramping up, and we don't have time, and we've got to go faster. What are you running towards so fast?
Well, it's perfect. That's a great question, and I got the answer this weekend. I'm trying to leave a legacy behind. I want our grandkids to know who we are. It's not time to slow down. It's time to ramp up. We have a great opportunity. Why are we going to shut down when we already did the hard work? Let's really get let's get the fruits of all the labor that we did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Margarita, it's been super fun to watch you guys interact in business, because, just as much as it's, king, it's equal queen. And you step in, and he's not even made space for you. You've just been right there next to him. And so talk about that dynamic of not even, it is supporting him, but you've played I would say a larger role than just the support. You guys have truly been a team.
Yeah.
But talk about that from your perspective.
For me, I think I'm really grateful for our relationship. And anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think a lot of people can do what we've done. I think that in the company's growth, we have also grown. We've built this company, it'll be 20 years, and in that there's been so much struggle and us having to adapt and compromise and change. And I just think that it's remarkable. And, I committed, and I was in it for the long haul, and, that was what I was going to do.
Yeah. Why that you said that so plainly. I committed, and that's what we did. Was that an easy decision? Was that, why you said it so
No.
easily?
No. At the time, it was a very difficult decision because it was kind of a sacrifice, but not really, that I had to make a decision that I had to make for our family. And whoever, doesn't know the story, you can hear it in the podcast. But I had to leave what I thought was going to be my career and my dream in order to build and help George fulfill this dream that he had. And eventually, it became my dream. And so when that shift happened and I realized the worth that I could bring is when we really flourished.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Beth, Rohani, the first queen of GTK, but really I would say that your insertion of yourself. You said, I don't really care if it's called Gathering the Kings. I want a seat at the table. And I remember that conversation with you, and you, for the most part, took a big chance. I would like to think that I laid some sort of trustworthiness, but that was you going, you know what? I'm just gonna do this for me, and whatever comes out of it is going to be, to the benefit of you and your story. And luckily for us, that was you coming to an event and meeting some of us then, and the rest of us now, and us getting to know you better. But what would you tell the listener in those seasons sometimes where opportunity presents themselves and sometimes you just have to jump?
Yeah, so it's either that or you're a really good salesperson. So one or the other, but it was, I remember it. It was the day after, the day that we did my podcast. And I asked you, I said, what's up with this? Why are all these fellas here? Where are the ladies at? And you said, it's actually a funny question that you ask. And if you can make it to Kansas City tomorrow, we have our biannual event and you're more than welcome to join. And I was at a stage of my life, like Landon said, everything in life, I believe, happens in the perfect time, space, and sequence. And I have been a business owner for 20 plus years. I had a partner for all of that time. During the time that we met, I was going through a divorce. And it was a very difficult time in my life because I was making some very difficult choices. And I had always been codependent in a relationship to where my husband was not only my husband, but he was also my business partner. And like Margarita and George working together, that life intertwines and it becomes one, and you can't find the separation between the two, or you don't know how to find the separation between the two. And so it leads to one path or the other. And in our case, it led to divorce. And I spent all my 20s, all my 30s, half of my 40s with this person and ran my business this entire time with this person. And to say, do I have the capacity? Do I have the capabilities to do what I do without him? And you question yourself, especially as a woman. You question yourself, and a female entrepreneur more so than anything else, of can I do it without this person that's been by my side? And I had to make that decision, and I did. And it was something that allowed me to gain the confidence in myself. And Peyton said, being humble, and I don't think I was so humble. I think when I met you, I said, Chaz, I don't need what you're offering. I'm going to bring it to the table because I've had all this experience and I want to bring value to others after all these years. And I came in and I said, I want to know how you do your podcast. I want to know what equipment you use, what editing you tools you use, and I want to use you to be able to leverage. And I came into that very first event and everyone was just so welcoming, and everyone was just so willing to embrace the fact that a girl, a woman, came into this dynamic that was all guys. And I know the very first event was kind of awkward because of some of the, questions that I posed. But I like to stir the pot, and and I think it was something that I quickly realized that it's beyond an opportunity for me to just learn how to do a podcast.
Yeah.
It was camaraderie. It was friendship. It was the opportunity to be able to find myself, because I was in the search of who I am as a person, as a woman. And when I came into this group and I started really diving into my core, I started identifying my core values, and I saw that my core values were aligned with this group. And we all are like-minded entrepreneurs, to where we want the pillars of kingsmanship, where family is important for us, health is important for us, leaving a legacy is important for us. And now I'm here 2 years later, a little over 2 years later. And, I'm proud to be the first queen of this journey. And I'm proud to be sitting next to Margarita and sitting next to Bridget, and having the opportunity where there are other women that are part of this group, to where we can support each other in a way that helps us be able to elevate. So all in all, I would say that, if you are in a point of your life where you are looking for a group of like-minded individuals, regardless of whether it's men or women. At the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs, and we go through the same struggles, and we deal with the same issues, and how we are supporting each other. I think it's the main source of impact that you gain from the Kings.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Talk legacy for a second, because you just said that was one of the things that we kind of stand for, but also that's important to you. And I've watched you on this legacy journey for 2 years now, as you've asked questions, and your legacy is going to look a little different than maybe mine, or maybe it'll just have different components. It'll look the same generally, but actually just have different components. It's really all the difference is. And so, talk about that for you, and how is that unique to you, and how you're finding that.
I'm still on the search for it. This is definitely helping give me clarity. I'm a first-generation Iranian American. Again, my parents left Iran to bring me into the United States for a better opportunity as a woman. And it was a sacrifice that they made, and it was something that I value. And it's given me the work ethic, it's given me the tenacity, it's given me the drive and the passion to succeed and to make my parents proud, because they made that sacrifice for me. And so when I think about legacy, it's not only the fact that I am first generation in the United States, but it's what can I do to carry it on beyond me, especially in my case, because I never had kids. And so you sit there and you wonder, as an entrepreneur, you get up every day and you go to work and you deal with the obstacles and the challenges that you have to overcome. And ultimately, what is it all for at the end of the day? Why am I getting all these gray hairs? And, it's like, what's the point, right? And so it's something bigger, and it's what you want to be remembered by, and the impact that you made on people, and just the fact that I'm part of this group and have connected with each person in such a unique way makes me feel that I've accomplished some form of legacy, because I've impacted people's lives in unique ways, whether it's through, collaboration or friendships. It is something that, again, you learn to find that. But in my case, it's like, well, where can I bring the value? And I think looking 100 years down the road, it's, okay, well, how can I make the impact with the things that I've done? And it might be, a charity or an organization that will follow my legacy, but it is something that, when you are not a parent and you are looking for what's next, it's challenging to have to answer and to find. And I think, being in an environment where you hear people and you see what they're doing in terms of their own path, it helps you be able to build your path, in your own unique way.
Yeah. Carl, you I'm going to draw you into this. Carl, you come into this this picture, with Beth, and successful in your own right, family business, and coming into even just a circle like this where there's kind of intense entrepreneurs, and you just sat right at the table like you've always been here. And so I appreciate that about you, one, but I want you to speak for just a second around watching her develop, and you've just been able to see a different perspective, obviously, than the rest of us. But what would you be able to share with the listener about Beth's growth, because you've been able to see it from a different angle? That could be maybe encouraging to them, or maybe it's a particular that you can drop to them.
Well, I've known her for 25 years, and I guess I've seen her go through a lot. And year and a half ago, I guess I started seeing a new side of her. Whenever she was divorced and she was her own person, she seemed free. And one of our first conversations that we had in a long time, she talked about this group, you guys. And, she's just embraced it. And she's learned a lot from you guys. And one thing that I've really enjoyed, I enjoy listening to each one of you. You guys are smart. I love learning from you. And y'all have accepted me like I'm family. And it's been great. And I've really enjoyed it. And, she's amazing. She's smart, confident, and, you guys have just lifted her up, and it's easy to see. And, when we leave these weekends, it's just like we have a lot of energy. It's just been enlightening, and I really have enjoyed it. And I thank you a lot, because it's been great.
Yeah,
So.
I appreciate that.
I will add that I did tell him that GTK is a non-negotiable in our relationship. And that if he's part of my life, he has to be a part of GTK's life.
Okay.
So,
Well, I hope all those things you just said were real then. Okay.
but the support and the beauty of it is if the listeners are watching, we have all the spouses around, and it's such a beautiful thing to be able to see the support from our significant others, because I think as entrepreneurs, that boosts us in a way where Matt was talking earlier with his dynamic with Annie. You actually have a partner in that case that really is there to be able to lift you when you are down, and be able to give you, that maybe, just kind of reality check when you need that reality check. And so to have him here and to have him experience what I go through, it's a very special thing, because now I'm not just coming to a mastermind group and then going home and trying to explain it to him and have him understand what it's about. When he's really here, he sees what it's about, and it's definitely a different environment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Oh yeah, you're up next. Bridget, we've only known each other for just a few weeks, really. And similar to Beth, when we met, it was under other circumstances, actually. You had inquired about some family stuff that we do, a vacation of sorts, and kind of just in conversation, we were just going back and forth, and you said that you'd been part of a group. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And like many of these relationships, I haven't led with this, because to me it's sacred. And when we went back and forth, it was like, yeah, I've just really struggled with the group that I've been a part of, and then the other night I asked you, okay, so here's kind of your first experience. What's been the difference? You want to fill in to the listener? Not necessarily, again, not a GTK promotion, but you've seen the power of a group, CEO group or something like this. You've also now seen it in different ways. What can you give to the listener that would be powerful for them just based on that experience?
Yeah, I think when you are a business owner, it's lonely at the top, or any level of executive, right? And oftentimes our life can become very compartmentalized and siloed. And to Beth's point about having your partner come on the weekend and be involved in the conversations, there's so much power to that I didn't know I could have. Like there's not there's not a lot that offers the whole package. And so it gets lonely at the top, and division is made because you feel like you have to choose so much in life. And your health is put on the back burner, your family, your marriage. Like we're not given a lot of opportunities that tell us that we can have it all. And I think you guys have built something really special. And I'm thankful to be around the circle. So thanks for having us.
Yeah. What would you give to the listener around, a woman in business who means business? We talked about your goals earlier today, and you've got kind of a unique opportunity in front of you, and you've got this message for women. What is that?
You can do it. You gotta have the resources around you. If your superpower isn't delegating or asking for help, I really struggle to ask for help and think I can do it on my own. And I think a lot of women struggle with the same thing. And I think fight for the rest of it. If one thing is going great and you want the rest of it, fight for it.
Yeah, it's good. Jeff Boyer.
Yes, sir. I'm going to stand out of the smoke.
Yeah, that's fine. We're here in Las Barrilas because you invited us to this beautiful place. And, we've gotten to know you over a couple of months now, and I think got to know you a little bit better today. But I've seen just a deep passion in you to figure out life, figure out why we're here and purpose, and of course how those intertwine to your businesses. And what would you say for you, but for the listener, is this searching that you're probably still going to be on forever. I mean,
Yeah.
But maybe the listener feels a certain way around like, what's my purpose, or why am I here, or
Yeah.
just that emptiness sometimes of not knowing. But you've been on this deep journey for a long time.
Yeah.
What would you give to them?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, like the journey of an entrepreneur is pretty lonely. You don't really realize it a lot of times because you just got your head down going so much, especially in your 20s and 30s. But my 40s is when I got surprised to realize that there was something more to what I've been doing. It wasn't just about making money and work and hustling. It was and ignoring my family half the time. I was missing out on the fruits of everything I had around me. I wasn't noticing the things that were the most meaningful to me. I wasn't paying attention to my wife enough. I wasn't present with my kids even when I was there, which I'm sure all of us can relate to. But it just became way more important for me to start to understand that side of myself that I'd never developed. I've just been selfish trying to grow a business, and the selfishness didn't come from me wanting to be selfish. It's just, we had to survive this thing. It was war every day, growing a business, and the one that we are in specifically is tough. Customer service type of business, it requires a high level of attention. So that burned me out. And so asked a lot of questions, just why am I doing this? And then often, I've got kids that are getting older now, so they're kind of doing their own thing, and so it becomes my wife and I, which my wife is, I will say one amazing thing about this group is everyone here has amazing partners. Like that's one of the key elements to any of our success. I'm sure everyone will say is our significant others are strong people as well in their own right, and whatever they're focused on has been, my wife for sure, key to our success. I mean, she's been a great mother and raised our kids while I was off building a business. So, but being here with you guys and Chaz and Jake, and with what at first I kind of like Beth, things are going good for me. I'm building stuff. I'm trying to kind of network, and Chaz, we met on Facebook, and just awesome to meet them. And I was in Dallas and they were in Dallas one morning. We met for breakfast really quick, and was kind of, just like a quick one. But right away I could tell these were great men, and there's something there. I didn't really know what it was. And then I just decided to take my whole family to Cancun. Didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
My kids are like, where are we going? Well, I don't know. We're just going to Cancun. What are we doing there? I have no idea. We're going to be with some awesome people. We're going to just do what we do.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be great. Turned out to rain the whole time, so my 3 girls were not the happiest. But my wife and I had an amazing time getting to know a lot of you that were there, and the things that we did together, very meaningful, deep things that we talk about still today. It was during summer last year. So it's just it's been more and different than I thought, and it's surprisingly great.
I appreciate that. I want you to talk from legacy, but from a slightly different perspective. We've been talking legacy this weekend here, and I've asked a couple of questions around legacy, but you're 3rd or 4th generation pool builder.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not just a pool builder, you're an incredible business owner, incredible husband and father, but you've built a really successful business in multiple cities across the country. You're on stages inside of your pool organization network, teaching other companies, and you're kind of a figurehead. What is legacy for a guy like you, 4 generations deep in a pool sector? What does that look like? Does that look like passing that on? Does that look like helping others? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's, for a while it was definitely pass it on, because of the experience of owning a business is tough, and like a lot of us want our kids to not have some of the same challenges we had. We do want them to, but not, and my legacy has kind of been show them who we are, like the work ethic we have, our faith, and like that we can do anything we want to if we choose to. But I realized too that I've become this man I am because of this business, and the challenges that I faced and the things that we've gone through are just so hard. And yet, having that persistence to fight through any challenges that come that seem like you can't get through it, and then you do, it just shows you that like you can make it through anything. And like the business is the best, college I've ever been to that cost me the most. I mean, I got freaking the most amazing degree.
Yeah.
In pool building business. You want to come talk to me? Come on, talk to me about it. But I want my kids to do it. I want them to be part of it special, Like I thought 3rd generation, thought it's cool to say, but like, and sometimes a little embarrassed that I'm a pool builder, when I was younger, because I was like, I feel like I'm more capable of just building pools. But honestly, it's turned out to be the most amazing business. I would have never chosen something else. And I hope my kids will see the same, that they'll see that it could be something special for them, and being here this weekend has woke me up a little bit to some of the, I don't know, just some like these small things that are kind of hard to notice in your normal daily life. That being here in this group and hearing these things and everybody talking about their stories, what they're planning on doing, and then being taught from professionals that are in these types of industries really has opened up my mind and my wife's mind to some new things that we want to implement in our family that I feel like can really help us get more clear. Our kids understand more who we are, where we want to go, and how we want them to be with us, and not just make it parents versus kids kind of,
Yeah.
but that we're a team and that we're all trying to do this together. And whatever path they choose, we're their fans, and that we're setting up our life to respect their futures.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
Jake, if you'll take the mic. I remember we were building our home and staying in one of our rentals, 1,000 square foot, 3-bedroom home with 4 kids. And I remember exactly where I was in that tiny little place, and talking to you on the phone about launching a podcast. and we weren't working together. We were just friends. And we've known each other for a long time, almost 20 years now. Probably 18 years maybe.
Yep.
And I remember that conversation around, I mean, I was just trying to do anything to get you to like grab onto something, you know. And I knew you loved podcasts. I'm like, Jake, I need help with this podcast. Because at that time you were, you know, happy with what you were doing and really saw that as a future for yourself. And but selfishly, I wanted to build a business with you. And I've thought and introduced you as the best human that I know for many, many years. And so for me to use this podcast and to celebrate, you know, episode 500, sitting across a campfire from you is pretty special, because I used it in a, hopefully not a selfish way, but in a way that lured you in, you know, in a way that you didn't even actually end up helping specifically with that at that time. It was just the talk that got us talking about it. Do you remember that conversation?
I do. I remember a lot of those early conversations. Well, I'm a high D, and so I remember most of our conversations, actually.
Yeah.
So we're clear about that.
Yeah.
All of those commitments, they're
Got them locked in.
Yeah, they're stored away.
I can't get out of them.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, the thing that I have always appreciated about you, Chaz, is you just have this natural curiosity with the people around you, and you have this ability to like see the best in those that you surround yourself with, and find ways to pull out their gifts. And I remember when we were talking about the podcast and how it was going to be a vehicle for the business. It wasn't just going to be another podcast. Like, there was some intentionality behind it, and there was going to be processes, and like, you do everything in your life with excellence. And that's been the man that I've known you to be for almost 2 decades, is everything that you do with excellence. And so when you said that you were going to start a podcast, I was like, there's no doubt that this will be an amazing podcast. And here we are almost 3 years later, and you've recorded 500 episodes, and you've talked to hundreds and hundreds of incredible business owners. And I mean, just this circle here tonight, there's decades of experience, there's dozens of kids, there's flourishing marriages, there's just so much wisdom in life in how you create spaces. It's just been a lot of fun to be a part of, and I'm thankful. I'm really, really thankful for it.
I appreciate that. What would you give to the listener? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, even some here in this room, you know, me for a while there was, you know, on the search for a number two, a partner, a road dog, and the right ones do exist, but they're hard to find. And so what would you say to the listener right now who, you know, they're driving in their car, listening to this at the gym, wherever they are, and they're like, oh, yeah, if I had me a Jake. You know, can't tell you how many times I've heard that. You know, if I just had a Jake, what would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, we subscribe to the entrepreneur operating system, and it specifically says inside of EOS that there's one integrator to every 4 visionaries. And so people say that they want a Jake, but the reality is that it's just not a very common thing. And that doesn't mean that you can't be successful in business without it. I think that sometimes business owners that I've talked to, they allow that to be the crutch that's keeping them from their success. And I think that you just have to go out and live your life with excellence. Do the best you can inside of your industry. Be the best man or woman, and you'll attract what you want. I believe that in all areas of my life. Like, you will attract the things that you want if you just show up with integrity and honor, and work hard. So
The angle that you've been able to see even just this weekend, you know, from a place of one, setting up the weekend and organizing all of these amazing things for these incredible people and families. A lot of the genius comes from your hospitality background and just your ability to just love on people really, really well. But then coupling that with 2 divorces, knowing that your spouse, isn't here, working through some really tough things in some of these events, like this weekend. What has that done for you as an entrepreneur, even just being in this circle this weekend?
Yeah. So the tears are from the smoke, just to be 100% clear about that. The smoke from the fire. I think the first thing that I recognize is just how unbelievably grateful I am to be in these environments, and how incredibly lucky you all are to be yoked with a spouse who's willing to be here and have these type of tough conversations and be intentional about working in your relationships. Because I didn't have that. I didn't have a spouse that was willing to do those type of things with me. And so when I get to come into these environments and see husbands and wives wrestling with real things inside of their relationships, unto making it better, unto improvement, it is one of the most beautiful and fulfilling things. And it provides just an unbelievable amount of hope for me, that, I too can have this. And I just need to continue to do the things that I need to do. I need to continue to walk out the path that the Lord has me on in order to just be ready to receive that.
Yeah, that's good. Last person here. So if you're still listening, it's kind of a long podcast, but Julie as my queen, the one that puts up with, Jay calls it a standard of excellence, but let's just be real. I'm kind of hard to please. 500 episodes in, how many times have you gotten a text message that said, "Shh, I'm recording"? Kids are yelling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's the journey of 500 episodes been for you?
Stressful. Well, the setup that we have or had was, I'm homeschooling the kids and he's upstairs, and we added extra insulation, but it was not enough. And so, my goal has always been to create a space and environment for you to, flourish in your creativity. And so, there was a lot of sacrifice on this end to try to give that space for you. But then also a lot of sacrifice on your end to have grace with me and the kids. So
yeah, what have you seen, and you can take this from a perspective of GTK or the podcast, doesn't really matter, but what have you seen over the last 3 years of recording this many shows or doing events like this weekend, just from your perspective, zoomed out? What have you seen?
I have seen a man who wanted initially to just, it didn't matter what it was, it didn't matter the widget, isn't that what you used to say? You just wanted to do business. And yet it's like I knew that there was something inside of you that wanted to find something you actually fell in love with. But at the time it was like, nope, it doesn't matter, I just love business. So, it was a collaboration between you and I that actually initially started GTK. And so to now fast forward 3 years later, for you to say, I will be doing this till the day I die, is so rewarding for me to see you actually do something that lights you up and you've found the purpose as to why you're living. Truly, I mean, outside of your kids and me, like this is your thing, And I feel like there's so many entrepreneurs who are struggling to find the thing, or maybe it's struggling to find purpose within the thing that you've already built, But so for me to be able to see that you've discovered this has been incredible, and I mean, increases just our quality of life in general, home life and peace and joy and all of that. So
what would you say to the listener? Thank you for that. What would you say to the listener who's searching for that. I mean, most entrepreneurs are always going to be searching for that. But what would you say to them, or how would you instruct them to act towards their spouse who maybe doesn't quite get it, right? Because I know there's been obviously times where you haven't understood what I was doing, or maybe the intensity that I operate at. But yeah, from that perspective, maybe kind of speaking to them, or maybe their spouse through them, what would you say to them?
I think as, we get older, a great quality is one of wisdom, and understanding that, so me and the ladies were talking about this earlier today. And there are times where we have all just looked at our spouse as like a 12-year-old boy, seeing them, try to kind of forge the path, find their way, the boy of adventure and, what is it, like a beauty to rescue, an adventure to have, and what's the third one?
A mission.
Dragon to slay.
A dragon to slay. So seeing your spouse and with the ups and the downs, maybe it's the grumpiness, maybe it's one day he's on a high and the next day is kind of a low point. But being able to have the perspective of, man, this is just my spouse who's trying to forge his path, and he's trying to freaking slay the dragon. And him and I have had conversations where it was an awakening for me to understand that this is his battle. Like, he's in war. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're in war. He's like, no, like, this is like a battle for me. And for me to have that realization that you take this thing that seriously, that this would be your battle, a war for you, has given me the ability to like, okay, well then what can I do outside the camp to preserve and to create an environment for you to go slay the dragon, And so there's been a learning process, but then also a grace that, man, like, I had the greatest honor to take care of your space and to do the best. It's my duty to do the best that I can possibly do so that you can go and you can freaking kill it, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, episode 500 in the books. And you guys have all been a part of that, so thank you for that. You've all been a part of much more than that. But for the listener, we're going to wrap up this fire, and we're going to do some more work here in our businesses and our family tomorrow morning before we head back to all of our respective cities. But we appreciate you listening in to episode 500 of Driven to Win. And my eyes are dying.
I can't imagine.